Welcome back to Ludus Infinium. Today I figured we would do something a little bit different than doing just 40k lore basics, and I would go into quite possibly my favorite character in the entire lore. Today we're going to talk about Kharn the Betrayer. The earliest records I can find of Kharn joining the Warhounds, the predecessor to the World Eaters, is late 30th millennium to early 31st millennium, which would put him at approximately 10 to 11,000 years old. As a neophyte, or Legiones Astartes in training, Kharn had a centurion named Gruner, who had a contest. The contest had been well established in the Warhounds Legion and had a very simple rule. The first Astartes to reach 1,000 skulls won. When asked about the prize, Gruner just shrugged his shoulders. No one had done it. When Kharn had asked where he was supposed to get the skulls from, Gruner just laughed at him, drawing attention from other neophytes and battle brothers, causing Kharn's first humiliation in the Legion. Remember the name Centurion Gruner. He will be important later. This humiliation, however, did not stop or didn't even slow Kharn. He was a master at close quarters assault and hand-to-hand combat, making him stand out in a legion that was their speciality. By the time of the Great Crusade and the reunification of the Warhounds with their Primarch Angron, Kharn was already a centurion of the 12th Legion elite 8th Assault Company. A centurion in the 12th Legion would be the equivalent of, say, a captain in any other legion or chapter of Adeptus or Legiones Astartes. The reunion with Angron, however, was not a pleasant one for the Warhounds. Having been ripped from his human troops on Nuceria in a uphill battle that he was sure to lose, Angron was quite understandably upset. He got locked in a cargo hold, and starting from the top, the highest ranking members of the Warhounds Legion came in to convince him to rejoin the Legion. And he slew them, one by one, from the first captain all the way to the 7th. Finally, Kharn came into the room. And standing there, he was talking about previous battles, being a member of the Warhounds, talking about his pride as a legionary. And after Angron had beaten him and bloodied him and put him on the floor, supine, or in a prone position, and yet even then Kharn did not give up. So close to death, yet his body would not let him die, his will stronger than anything. Angron respected him for this, enough to make him his equerry. An equerry is kind of like an advisor to a Primarch. He was basically there to give counsel. However, because of his unique nature, he was always the second into battle. Even after Angron had implemented the Butcher's Nails into his legion, Kharn was even more bloodthirsty than before, even more violent. And instead of being an advisor to counterbalance Angron's temper, he was always the second into the fighting, and normally always in the thickest of it. So, realistically, instead of choosing a good counterbalance, Angron chose almost ironically a clone. And then, throughout all of this, with the Butcher's Nails being implemented to the Legion, it drove Kharn and many others to deeper and deeper bloodlust, making them ripe targets for Khorne. For much of the Great Crusade, the 12th Legion was used as shock troops, or very efficient face-to-face close quarters combat. Not much really happened out of the ordinary until the Horus Heresy, more specifically at Estefan III. At Istvan III, the four main traitor legions being the Sons of Horus, the World Eaters, the Emperor's Children, and the Death Guard. The legions were split in half, traitor versus loyalist. The War Master sent down the loyalist forces first to bring Istvan III back into compliance. Approximately halfway through what they were supposed to do, he initiated a virus bombing of Istvan III on top of the loyalist. And afterwards, Angron lost his patience after the bombing when he noticed that the loyalist forces were still alive, and gathered his traitor legion and went down to the surface to kill the loyalists. And right behind him was Kharn. The most notable thing to happen to Kharn during Estefan III is in a close combat battle with Garviel Loken. He became horribly wounded when he was thrown into the teeth of a tank's dozer blade, impaling him through the chest. However, this did not kill him. He was pulled down and continued on. He got healed and just went back to killing like nothing had happened. As a quick little side path, there was a point during the Horus Heresy called the Burning of Prospero, around not necessarily the same time, but pretty close to the Istvan III tragedy. And Horus had sent a false message to Leman Russ that instead of bringing in Magnus the Red alive, he was to kill him and his legion. He just basically wasn't worth the trouble. So about 6 months after the burning of Prospero, a Thousand Sons captain by the name of Caliston led some of his battle brothers back to Prospero to search for survivors or for their Primarch. Instead, they were surprised by a force of World Eaters. After the fight and being captured, Caliston regained his consciousness, and he thought originally that he was kidnapped by the Luna Wolves, or the Sons of Horus, due to the paint scheme being a dull gray, and in the lighting, World Eater's paint scheme is white and blue. However, after he regained all of his faculties, he noticed it was a World Eater. And after talking with Kharn, he gave him an opportunity. He's like, I see you're in pain. I see you're losing your mind and you hate it. Let me help you. Let me fix this. Fighting the inner demons, Kharn ended up, he fought it, and he was trying, he was seriously thinking about redeeming himself. In the last second, it stopped. All the fighting just stopped, and he killed Caliston. And that was probably his last chance at ever redeeming himself. At the Battle for Terra, Kharn was at the forefront of every assault made by the World Eaters. He was also, supposedly, the first of his legion to breach the walls of the Imperial Palace. And he claimed more skulls for Khorne than any other World Eater. When Horus was killed, Kharn had already laid, battered and broken, on top of probably many enemy and friendly bodies, which he probably killed a lot of both. And when the other World Eaters brought him back, it's unknown whether Khorne had a hand in it or it's just Kharn's massive will. He came back to life. There's some speculation that he wasn't really dead, he was just close to death. There is some speculation that he was dead and just kind of got better. Either way, honestly, to be beaten that bad and damage that bad and make a full recovery period is astounding, even in the Warhammer universe. I mean, normally, if an Astartes isn't killed, they have to be put into a dreadnought at that point. And he just kind of shook it off and went on. After the traitors would be back from Terra, a lot of the World Eaters under Kharn went to the planet Scalathrax in the Eye of Terror, and the World Eaters ended up fighting the Emperor's children for dominance over this planet. However, something unique about Scalathrax is it got so cold, even Astartes couldn't resist it. It was even fatal to them after mere moments. Kharn upset? Yeah, we'll go with upset. Upset at the sheer cowardice of his own World Eaters, picked up a flamer and burned down their shelters and started killing them just as quickly as he would kill the Emperor's children. However, amidst the fighting, he gets ambushed by other Astartes, and having basically mortally wounding one of them by throwing a chain axe and hitting him in the neck, he removed the Astartes helmet, and it ended up being the Centurion Gruner that had trained him. Gruner had cursed Kharn for his mindlessness and his bloodthirstiness, and for daring to strike down his own battle brothers. But Kharn merely laughed at his words. He saw himself as the greatest champion of the World Eaters. He had stood upon the walls of the Imperial Palace. He was the last to be taken away from Terra. His body was broken and practically dead only after he killed 1,000,000 loyalist Astartes. And no one in his mind would ever come close to his tally of kills. And in my knowledge, in 10, 11,000 years, no one has. No one's even remotely come close to it. And now that the contest was finally over, he lifted the chain axe out of Gruner's throat and brought it back down one more time, killing him, and claiming one more skull for the Blood God. The events at Scalathrax basically did two things revolving around Kharn. One, he earned the title Kharn the Betrayer instead of his original Kharn the Bloody, and also it split the World Eaters Legion into many war bands to a point where there's honestly no chance that it'll ever be a full legion again like it was. Since then, Kharn has been the greatest of the Blood God's servants. Definitely the greatest of all of his mortal servants, but probably even amongst his demonic servants, he's one of the best, if not the best. He continues to, quite frankly, be a universe-breaking figure. He should be dead. He should be dead multiple times over. But even in the overpowered world of Warhammer 40k, this is possibly the most overpowered character. And since then, he's hired himself out to other heretics and even to Abaddon the Despoiler for his Black Crusades. However, hiring him is a risk. You run the risk of he might kill your enemy, or he might kill you. The Blood God does not care from whence the blood flows. To this day, he is still alive and still claiming skulls for the Blood God. Now, to do a little bit of a why. Why Kharn is, if not my absolute favorite character, one of my favorite characters in the Warhammer universe. this is a character that in the literature and in the lore, you can see how tortured they are. And there are quite a few of them that are the same way. In Kharn, you see that he turns into this monster. And that last time he gets redemption with Captain Calistan of the Thousand Suns. You know, he wants to redeem himself, but just snaps out of it because of the butchers now, and some believe because of Kharn, because Kharn knows this is the path he wants him on. And it doesn't give him an excuse. It doesn't make it out of his control. He's the one who fell to it. But it's a tragedy in the sense that before, yes, he was an aggressive person. All of the Warhounds were. But he was one of their best. He was an honorable warrior. He was a wise warrior. To this day, he's still considered very wise. Not really honorable because he will kill with any means possible. He just prefers close quarters combat. And at the end of it, he's an amazing character in that sense that everything was stacked against him, yet he became more powerful from it. Maybe not necessarily in the way that he wanted or intended originally, but he's easily one of the most mortal, at least, one of the most powerful mortal characters in Warhammer 40k. However, with that aside, if you made it to the end, and I hope you all did, I appreciate all of you watching. Hope you have a nice day, and hope to see you again in the next one.